Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. I've got the famous Farzad here with me. Thanks for joining us on a beautiful
Famous.
Friday. Why, why are you laughing?
I don't know, dude. That was just funny.
I
I'm
had that
like the
scripted
least
and
fit.
everything.
Oh my
Yes,
god.
you are
Go
the
for it. Sorry.
you are the famous Tesla ex-Tesla employee, mind you. And by the way, I think today is going to be a real asset for us having you on talking about the layoff news that is kind of taking up all the headlines and whatnot. But first of all, welcome to the channel. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be with the Juju gang, the best gang on the internet. Love
You
you
heard it here.
guys. Love you, Yashu. You always do great work, and I'm very excited to be back, man. Thank
You
you
heard
for
it here,
having me back.
thank you. And today I actually caught Juju for once.
Oh,
I
nice.
because I knew you were going to give me a hard time if I didn't have any. So I was like, I cannot forget. Because last week Bradford was giving me a hard time. He's like, well, like where's your Juju? I was
That's
like,
right.
you're right. Like I've been lacking. So
Yeah. Well, you almost burned your house down last week, so thankfully you're still there. You're well put together. There's no smoke in the background. I don't see any flames
uh,
going up, so we're good. I'm just
yeah.
thankful. I'm thankful you have your place, intact.
Thank
Hopefully.
you. Yes, it was scary. I was home alone. Told the story on Discord afterward. I was home alone, and I just like look up, and I'm listening to Bradford talk. I look up, I just start seeing smoke coming out of the kitchen.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
god.
oh shit, I forgot the yams on the stove because the yams
Oh
are
my
like
god.
10 or 15 minutes longer than. Anyways, we don't have to
Yeah.
get into this, but
Right.
it was annoying. But let's talk
Well, he
about
did
price.
Bradford did an admirable job
Yes, he
ensuring
did.
this live stream went. So I want to give a shout out to Bradford as well. So great job,
Absolutely, he did
Bradford.
awesome.
Sorry.
Shout out Bradford. Exactly. Let's talk about price action today.
Yeah.
First and foremost, 707 sitting on Tesla, 8.9% down for the day. First things first, it's not fair to compare Tesla being down unless we know what the Nasdaq as a whole is down and other stocks in that basket. So tech stocks, Nasdaq in general is down 2.5%. It was as high as I think three, maybe a little bit over 3% down for the day. So a beta of two, let's say a 5 or 6% down move on Tesla would be justified on an independent day. And so for Tesla sitting down 8-9%, maybe you can call it probably a 2 or 3, maybe 3.5% chasm attributable, if you want to say, to the news of the day, which is Elon sending out emails saying 10% of the staff of not the factory staff, but the higher up white collar staff needing to be laid off, and some recession worries as well. Let's get your kind of first takes on it. I've already read your tweets on it, but for anyone that hasn't, I'd love to your kind of first takes on the general headlines and what the truth behind it you see from a former Tesla employee's background.
Yeah. So I think I think the notion of this is somehow bearish for the company or the culture, I think is not well placed. So I'll start there and try to sort of take it to where we needed to take it to. So uh, I think there's a big misconception around the current sort of environment that we're in with remote work, that somehow Elon saying that everybody needs to get back to work is somehow going to be detrimental for the company and detrimental for people that they have. Like they're going to lose talent somehow. Having been there for a little over 4 years, one of the things that was very obvious from working there was Tesla is in a constant state of problem solving new things. So that's one thing that Tesla is excellent at, and the reason why they are who they are is because they're constantly building new things, not just in auto, but in service, distribution, energy, so on and so forth. For that type of work, the best way to solve problems is to have a group of people that are always available to troubleshoot. Okay, so if you have some sort of loop that you iterate something, you bring something out, you test it out, it's broken, and then you have to go back in and fix it and make it better. You need people on site constantly. And so the type of work that Tesla does is exactly that. On top of the fact that it's physical work. It's not just creating programs or software or UI or doing something that could be done remotely per se 100% of the time. A lot of it is very physical work. The other thing you have to physical in the terms that you can actually feel it and touch it, right? You actually touch it. The other variable to this is that the majority of their workforce is hourly. The majority of their workforce is
Hmm.
at the factories, it's at the service centers, it's at the body shops, it's at the warehouses, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And the staff that's built around that, the salaried staff, is built with the purpose of supporting that staff. That's 100% of the role. In any blue white collar dynamic, especially in the United States, the blue collar folks, like the people that actually do the work, the important work, are doing the work, and the people that are surrounding them help them do their job easier, faster. Okay, and so within that context, if you're Tesla and that blue collar staff, the folks that are there every single day busting their butts are working as hard as they can to get stuff done, and they're running into bottlenecks or things that they're hitting that's preventing them from doing the job better, faster, moving it forward. And then the surrounding staff is not there to be as quick as possible in solving those problems, you're going to have an issue. You're going to have an issue from a culture perspective. What's going to happen is, one, that blue collar staff, the people that are actually doing the physical work, are going to grow resentful of the fact that they don't have the help there to help them. You know, if you're somebody who's remote, who's supposed to be there, who ends up being remote, and you're hard to get a hold of because you're not in a situation where you're working at a company that's very challenging and it demands a lot of your time. Instead, you're at home with your puppy on your lap on a computer trying to solve that problem remotely. It's infinitely more difficult because you don't have the incentive of the fire burning in front of you to go and fix it. So from a culture perspective, it's just not compatible in a lot of places, okay? And I think in the end, this sort of move, what it does, it ensures that the moat that Tesla has from a culture perspective, from a speed of innovation perspective, from a problem-solving perspective, remains intact and continues to strengthen. The only reason why Elon would have sent this email, in my opinion, is because he faced something internally that signaled to him that they could have gone faster, and they weren't, and he was getting the feedback that they weren't, like, we can't because of supply chain, as an example. We can't go faster because of supply chain. Then I bet you what happened is Elon tested it. He found that that's not the case. They can go faster. He tried to get a team together to problem solve as to why we can't go faster. Those people were extremely difficult to get a hold of because they're either remote or they've sort of grown a little bit lazy or cushy on the work that they're doing. And he's like, okay, that's it. I've had enough. Get back right now. We need to get stuff done. That's the sort of urgency that happens in Tesla. Like, people have to understand this. This is not a steady state company that is just you go through the paces and get stuff done. Every single day you're problem solving. Every single day you're problem solving. And the best way to problem solve is by being there in person, and that allows you to get there at the fastest speed possible. And if anybody's familiar with Tesla, they know that Tesla are experts at moving super fast. And if Elon's always going to think from first principles, he's going to say, okay, what are the mitigating factors here for me not going as fast as I should? Is because I don't have the team around me. I have to get the team around me. And it's simple as that, you know? So I think within that context, the removing remote as an option outside of exceptions, which he was also very clear about in his email, makes all the sense in the world. And people have to understand that for the type of company that Tesla is, this is a great thing for culture. This is a great thing for the company. And those that are afraid about talent leaving because of this, guess what? There's 3 million applicants waiting to get into the door to come in even more inspired than the person that's leaving to do that same job.
Interesting.
Sorry. A little bit of a rant, but
no, that's really good perspective for someone that's actually worked in the company. Interesting. So my question to you then would around that be, so if it seems like, and of course it's not like you know this for a fact, this is kind of what you're gathering from all the breadcrumbs being left out. So there's that. But then also, do you think, okay, if Elon is saying, okay, no remote work, first he said no remote work. Do you think he was kind of hoping like he'd probably just see like not a mass exodus, but just a kind of a self-selecting of people leaving, and so you didn't have to do the layoffs in that respect, where people would just be like, yeah, okay, I'm out, sort of thing. And then when that didn't really happen, or people were like, reluctantly accepted, he's like, okay, never mind, I'm just gonna have to take this into my, take the reins here and actually do all the layoffs that I wanted to do.
I don't think the initial message was with that sort of mentality in mind. I think it came from a place of optimizing for the fastest possible solutions. Okay, so, and people have to be there. I think once that happened, potentially what could have happened is he saw how many people are actually there supposed to be working, and then he made the decision that says, okay, salary workers, we're going to cut it by 10%. What you have to remember is Tesla goes through this thing every single year. I don't think people know this about the company, and I mean, I think it's obvious because as Elon has talked about layoffs before, it's a very natural part of a company to go through layoffs. Every year, what you want to do is you want to remove the lowest performing folks to leave room for the highest performing folks to come into the door. That could potentially be that next generation of leadership, the next generation of great people. Great companies do this. It's human nature for people to sometimes fall out of love with the work that they're doing, and perhaps they become a weak performer, and then they would have to make room for the next generation of talent to come in, right? So, and then you also have to think about the last 2 years in the COVID years. Since 2020, we've been in this sort of COVID thing where I think from a staff management perspective, and I'm talking about this, that I led teams for 10 years, so this is sort of my background, is it becomes really hard to really understand how many people you actually need when the entire thing is screwed up, when your supply chains are screwed up, when the challenges you're facing are brand new to you. You don't know how many people you need. So what this signals to me is that Elon's comfortable that Tesla's getting back to that sort of like, okay, we know exactly what we're dealing with here. And it's obvious that we have some fat around the company that has built up in the last 2 years. And we haven't had a chance to analyze that yet. So we're going to take the time, let's trim the fat, and let's allow for the next generation of leadership and support to come in to lead us forward. And within that email itself, he also said that he's looking to increase headcount for hourly workers, which are the people that are directly tied to production. Yeah. So from a production perspective, Tesla is only continuing to grow. Now the surrounding structure is going to be optimized to allow the company to move as fast as humanly possible. So this is all positive. It's all part of the deal, and it's just how businesses that run well run. This is part of that process.
Interesting. And by the way, I see some comments about equalizing volume and whatnot. I've actually increased your mic volume, so hopefully that's a little bit better, folks.
Do I need to do anything from my end here? Let me see.
I think you should be better now. I think you should be better. All good. Okay. And I agree. The second part of that email is really getting missed out, where he said literally, 10% of salaried workers, let's say white collar, if you want to call it, are going to be laid off because of this. But no one with respect to actually working on batteries, working on cars, working on installing solar is going to be touched. And in fact, we're actually increasing the hourly workers, which is what you said is the vast majority of Tesla employees out there. So to me, at first glance, I was like, oh, that's not good. Like a 10% layoff across the board, not good. But then when you read the email, get context around it, it wasn't around anything that actually, I have a hard time saying this, but anything around meaningful production quantity. Like it's not like and that's not to minimize a lot of the work that is done, let's say in the upper management and whatnot, because everyone does good work, right? But I would be a lot more worried. I would be a lot more worried if it was okay, Elon saying, look, we're reducing staff at our new factories at the factory line, because and that would be like, okay, well, look, demand might be waiting here. Like that would be a signal to me that demand might be waiting a little bit. So upper management, stuff like this, and the second part of that email, by the way, which I don't think I've read, I don't even think it's out yet. Do you have any perspective on Elon saying he feels like there's something really bad brewing here with the economy as a whole?
I mean, he's talked about the fact that he thinks there's going to be a recession coming this year, right? So yes. Perhaps, and again, like, are those comments confirmed? I don't know if those comments are confirmed, right?
I haven't. Yeah. So if someone in the comments has it, feel free to toss it to us. But no, I haven't seen an email. I'm guessing it's the second part of that email.
I don't think so. I think what it is, it's the emails said nothing about I have a bad feeling about this. He was just simply talking about the expectations of what they're going to do from a work management perspective. So that's I think that's truly what it is. I think I have a bad feeling about this was something that the newspaper, I think it was Reuters, quoted as someone with knowledge of the situation said what Elon said, right? So even within that context, like, okay, so how is this even who said this, right? But even within that context, Elon has been very vocal about the fact that we're going towards a recession. So he might be seeing signals that reinforce that, that like, hey, yep, I'm sure I have a super bad feeling about the economy. But here's the deal. If you're a Tesla investor, if you're invested in Tesla, if Tesla is guiding to increase their hourly headcount in order to increase production in an environment where the economy is going towards a downtrend, how is that not an extremely bullish environment for the company, right? So I think somehow there might be an environment where we're taking those two comments and putting them together under one roof and just saying, well, they somehow both apply to Tesla. That's not the case. I believe the economy comment is within the context of everything else but Tesla, because
Hmm.
Tesla wouldn't be hiring more hourly workers
If yeah.
if they were actually afraid that this
Mhm.
super worried economic activity were actually to happen, because they would also rein in the hourly headcount. So if
Hmm.
anything, it's even more bullish for Tesla, because it makes them even a more viable flight to safety, because you have a company that's now growing in an environment where everything else is shrinking, with a massive balance sheet and no debt. Why? Like, who wouldn't want to be in that situation? You know?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like a restructuring of capital internally to like boots on the ground versus kind of ivory towers for now.
Right.
That's not to say that, like you said, they may have overshot it. But at the same time, let's say a recession does happen. Now let's talk about demand in a recession. I think this recession, by the way, we all talk like a recession as if it's like already happened.
Believe everything we say. Only Yashu actually don't believe me. Only Yashu.
Well, no, like we just talk like everyone talks about a recession, like it's like for sure a fact. It
Done deal.
most
Yeah.
likely is, but who knows? It's not official yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say this recession, it's a little bit different as well than like the '08 recession, let's say '09, because there were no EVs back then, and this is not just pertinent to Tesla. Consumers today have options to switch to EVs today in a recession to save money from gas. And anecdotally speaking, a lot of my friends that are talking about the economy shrinking or talking about the gas prices going up now all of a sudden are actually, like, surprisingly to me, I've done more research in the last couple of months about EVs than I have outside of Tesla. They're coming to me asking about like the Hyundai Kona or the Ioniq or the Tesla Model 3 or the Perform. Like people are asking, and I just can't help to wonder if a recession, although no one wants to see it happen, might just be a normal part of the market cycle. I can't help to think if a recession might just accelerate
Yes.
the EV, the whole EV landscape.
That's 100%. I couldn't agree more. It's the all the governments that are impacted by a recession would be foolish to stimulate an industry that is clearly going out of favor, i.e., the ICE engine, right? The internal combustion engine, the gas car. And so
Mhm.
there's going to be a lot of efforts around stimulating the part of the economy that's going to be the next generation of transportation, i.e., electric vehicles. Who's a company that's doing that extremely well and actually has the scale to meaningfully impact that transition? Tesla. So they become a prime winner in a recession environment, because they're the best position to take advantage of the new trend of transportation. I agree with you 100%. It's a recession. I hate to say it this way. A recession could be one of the best things for Tesla from a demand perspective, because then it literally it ensures that their future is locked in because of that transition, and they're by far the best position to make that happen.
Hmm. And so, with regard to everything today, there's kind of a hot debate on regarding Tesla, and if Tesla had a PR team or a communications team that could highlight this. Some Tesla bulls, like for example, Dan Ives has come out and said, like, look, this is all fine, whatever, no big deal. We're not too worried
Mm-hmm.
about it. But the way that it's said, or the communication of it to the general media, and yes, it was leaked. So how do you really like manage expectations? But I guess you have to assume every email that Elon's ever going to send, especially mass wide, is going to be
Yeah,
leaked, right?
yeah, of
Um,
course.
what are your thoughts on the general PR debate? Not having a vast team, but having a team that can at least formally speak to things publicly, let's say.
So the way I think about PR is that I think Elon's move to purchase Twitter is a solution towards that. I think there's a reason why Elon's investing so much time in having a platform where he's able to freely and openly discuss and say the things that he thinks are important. And what PR really is, I mean, the way I perceive PR, public relations, is a tool that allows you to bring the good favor out of society in order to make your brand appear superior to others, or to somehow convey a message that's not widely known. That's what PR is. What better way to do that than with a platform that has 200 plus million subscribers, who that you own, where you set the rules on what can be said, which from his standpoint is essentially everything that's illegal. That to me becomes the PR move. right? And so with the increasing sort of politicization of his comments, with the fact that he's becoming so large that he's attracting a lot of attention from different government players, I think it's going to be important for Elon to have a platform that allows him to really pass on his thoughts directly to the people. And for me, PR and Twitter is one. So the folks that are hoping that happens, I would recommend viewing the Twitter move as one of those, as it solving that issue plus many others. But yeah, I see that rolled up into the Twitter acquisition.
Interesting. So let's untangle that a little bit. So you think, so how does Elon owning Twitter, let's say,
Mhm.
help with the general landscape of Tesla getting proper headlines or other companies
Yeah.
getting proper headlines?
Sure. So Elon has proven in the past that anything he touches becomes best in class, right? So electric vehicle, best in class. Rockets, best in class. What's soon to be broadband internet everywhere in Starlink, best in class. Solars, best in class. Batteries, first best in class. Okay, so anything PayPal at the time, best in class. Okay, so he has a track record for when he touches something, it becomes the biggest player in that arena. Within the context of Elon buying Twitter, it's likely, I think it's reasonable to assume that Twitter is going to become likely to be the best social media platform on planet Earth from both a usability perspective and the amount of people that use it perspective, right? So the number of users. If your number of users go from 200 million to say a billion, you've automatically created, you automatically have the chance to talk directly with a billion people. At
Hmm.
200 million people, you're already way big. You're bigger than anything else, really. What other platform has 200
Mhm.
million users that you can use to convey a message, right? So even within that context, he can grow it to whatever size he wants to based on the track record he has to make really great products. And I think that's really going to enable to really pass those ideas or whatever else he wants to pass on to the public on. And then the other thing to also keep in mind with that purchase as well is that very, very few people have actually gotten the chance to experience an Elon product firsthand, like touch it, drive it, take it to the space, right? Like a lot of people have heard about these things, but there's still the minority of the population has been exposed to an Elon product firsthand. With Twitter going under his helm, now everyone's going to have access to experience an Elon product firsthand. That in itself, I think, is going to create a lot of goodwill around the things that he wants to do because it's clear that he's building things that are important and awesome for people to experience. And that in itself is going to be a form of PR because people are going to be like, wow, so I've heard these headlines and I've heard people talking about how awesome Tesla is and SpaceX is. And now that I get to experience Elon's Twitter, I can see that now. Wow, okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. That in itself is going to be great PR.
Interesting. I'm going to push back and have a healthy debate here with you a little bit
Let's
about
do it.
this.
Yeah.
So I think
How
that's a
dare you?
great point. I think that's a great point, though. I mean, a lot of people haven't touched, products that and I'm like this for better or for worse. As soon as I touch a product, sometimes I prejudge it, but I'm like I know right away. Like the iPhone, you open up the case. I had that experience with the iPhone. The Tesla Model 3 was the same way for me. It kind of changed everything as soon as I actually drove it. Now for the PR, what I'm talking about is something maybe a little bit more lean. Like for if you just talk about definition, if you put aside even the word PR, because I think it has bad connotations for a lot of Tesla bulls, put that away. For example, like something as minute that may seem as minute for us. But okay, so locally here, there was a Tesla fire that kept hitting the news wires here locally. It was someone that had bought a Tesla, and then their Tesla caught on fire, and they didn't know where the latch was for their door. They only had used the electric latch for the door, which I mean, I get it. It took me probably like a month or two to even figure out that there was like a manual hatch. So I get it. I don't think that person was. It's totally his fault. But also in the same day, ironically enough, I was driving. I was driving, and I saw a dead end. There was like a fire. There's a fire. A bunch of firemen around, and I turned around, and there was like a car on fire, like a legacy car, like a regular gas car. It was a newish car, but only one of those were in the news, right? And so Tesla coming out and just, for example, putting out a statement in that report saying, "Look, and unfortunate what has happened here. But for all Tesla owners, know that there is a manual latch here for the door, and read your safety manual because it does exist. Because the media here was running with the narrative that Tesla doesn't inform anyone or that no one knows about this, and I mean, granted, like everyone should know about it. It took me a month or two to even figure out myself. But even having like a formal statement like that, like one or two sentence from the company, and just saying something as simple as, look, all Teslas are equipped with actual manual exit locks or exit latches. Check your safety manual, but here's where they are. Here's where you can be pointed in the right direction to know where it is. I think that costs very little. It's pretty lean. And you don't have to comment on every news story, but something as important as safety. A big reason why I bought, why I have a Tesla is because of the safety. I kind of want to show that off. I don't want all of a sudden a brand to be tarnished or to have a black eye just because there's really, only people having to defend the company there. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a good point. The pushback I would have there is if it was really that important, Elon would have tweeted about it and it would have been picked up by every single news site.
You're right. Now, what if Elon's busy that week because he has a TED Talk and then he has a SpaceX mission and then he has this and, he doesn't check his mentions, right?
Anytime he goes to the bathroom, that's where he does it anyway. So, like, he's very efficient with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, to your point, if it really is that lean and that low effort, why shouldn't just Elon do it? It's simple enough. If it's materially enough that's going to impact the company's trajectory, Elon is 100% going to know about it, right? And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just sort of giving you the alternative of like let's try to not think about the like what a traditional PR department does, and instead think about what is the ultimate thing that we need to solve here is to get the right message out, whatever that means. If he knows that he's going to have a platform that's going to be picked up by every single news site because he knows that his tweets get links, get clicks, he's like the new Trump, right? As soon as a new thing comes on, people are going to click on it and be like, oh, this is what Elon said, right? So if he knows that is already there, why invest in a PR department where he can do that if he feels that it's materially enough that it's hurting the company? And we have to remember that just because it impacts the stock doesn't mean that it's impacting the company. And ultimately, Elon's and Tesla's priority is to ensure the company is doing great. The stock price will follow. They have the luxury of time to ensure that's the case. So I would push back and say that if it really was that important, we already would have heard something. Yeah.
I see where you're coming at
from
that.
It's not. I'm not trying to minimize the fact
Right.
that that's an important thing people should know about 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying from the perspective of it having a material impact on the company's success, perhaps it hasn't passed that threshold.
Now, the only reason I even say that is because I had a lot of people forwarding that article to me locally on Instagram or, texting it to me and being like, yo, check this out. And I had to explain to them, like, look, there is a latch here. A lot of them actually sat in the car and just recently, yesterday, I talked with someone. I went to dinner with a friend, and they didn't know like where this latch, like they're like, oh wait, like it's only this thing. I'm like, no, check this out. Like, oh, that kind of looks hidden actually. It's like, and the last thing I want is for the person that is wanting to buy a Tesla, all of a sudden they have this brand, kind of like its perception is reality a lot of the time, right? So point taken. I still think, and I get it. I think Elon, part of his genius is that he likes to keep everything under his control and really under his Midas touch, so to speak, right? So, I get that. But yeah, I mean, and I see Gary saying, read the safety manual. I mean, the honest truth is, I don't know if last time you bought a car, like
who does that?
Yeah, a lot of people don't read the safety
Listen,
manual.
I think your points are super valid. What it really comes down to, I don't think that's a PR issue. I think perhaps Tesla needs to rethink how they present the car to the drivers when they first pick it up. So when the process of picking up the car, perhaps the first thing you do is like, here's the safety information you should know. Door latch here, blah, 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 and then go into the introduction of the car. Perhaps maybe they'll correct that, right? I think you make a great point. I would push back and say, great, but how much of that is just FUD? And I get a percentage of people will ask that, but if it's not going to materially impact the trajectory of the company, why spend time on it?
Just because of brand, I think for me, that's my answer to that is
fair.
brand. So 704 sitting on Tesla, by the way, right now. And as we sit here, let's talk about something a little bit maybe more exciting. Let's talk about Tesla AI Day 2. So this is was slated to be in August. Now it's slated to be I think September 30th, if I'm not wrong. Elon said that he might actually have a working prototype of Optimus by then, by the way, he replied to Dave. Dave sent a photo of the Optimus bot in like the mannequin style, and he was like, "No, it's not going to look like that." So, what are your thoughts on AI Day 2? Do you think it's mostly about Optimus, or do you think robo taxis might get mentioned in there, FSD, and why the delay? Do you think?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I think all of those things will be discussed. I think the fact that Elon confirmed that the bot will be there was a surprise to me, and that's very exciting because that tells me that they're quite a bit further along than I initially thought. So
Hmm.
that's really cool. I think Dojo is going to be a huge focus. I think AI, the full self driving, single stack going towards robotaxi like launch will be obviously talked about, and I do think there's going to be a significant portion of the talk geared towards the bot. Only because there is, and the company has talked about this before, there is a clear link between the development work they're doing on full self-driving now and what the bot's going to use to be functional. It's the same platform. It's the same architecture, right? So I think it makes sense to show the bot and bigger capability. What I'm hoping happens, and if this happens, I think it bodes extremely well for the future of the bot and how seriously people are taking Tesla at their word here. Is if they demo the bot doing an actual live thing that would be useful in a warehouse or factory environment. So I come from the warehouse world distribution. It would be so freaking cool if they have, say, a pallet of boxes that are of different priorities, say overnight or ground or 2 day or whatever, and they have
Mhm.
separate areas that are designed for them, for the truck that goes ground, for the truck that goes express, so on and so forth. If Elon's like, Optimus, please sort parcel, and then the Optimus will go to the boxes, scan it. This one's overnight. It drops it off. It drops it off at staging area 1 for overnight. This one's ground, staging area 2, blah, blah, blah. Because this is a type of role in a warehouse that's very repetitive and very boring, and it's backbreaking. If a bot can, you can show the bot will actually do this using plain English language and it will just do it perfectly every time, I think that's going to actually plant a seed into people's brain, that especially the ones that are working those fields, that say, holy crap, I can buy 10 of these and use it for my operation and use it, right? So you'll have a real example of the bot. And I think if they do that, it's going to be great. And the reason why they may have delayed it to September 30th is potentially to ensure they have some sort of demo that they can show of what this bot is capable of. So I'm crossing my fingers that's the case as to why we had a delay, because otherwise I don't see why they would have delayed it unless they're trying to really show something cool with the bot, because they did mention that it's going to be there, and I think that has the biggest interest by far from people.
Hmm. Yeah, I was surprised when he tweeted out that the bot might by the way might be there for AI Day 2. That's way ahead of any sort of mental schedule I was kind of putting out for years and years and years. But I guess Elon was screaming from the mountaintops during the earnings calls, like, look, like you guys aren't listening about the bot. So there's that. But I do wish AI Day is still. Hopefully, we still get updates about FSD by then. FSD hopefully maybe past beta by then. Who knows? Wider
Mm-hmm.
release. Metrics on disengagements or just overall trips taking with FSD. I do hope AI Day is somewhat of a continuation from the first one as well, in the sense that we get more about FSD as well as bot, of course.
Mm-hmm. So you don't think it's going to be there? You think it might be there?
The bot? I think Elon
Yeah.
said Elon didn't commit to saying that it will be there. He said that we're hoping for September 30th. By then, we'll have a working demo.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought that was for the August 8th message.
I can pull it up here. Let me
Yeah.
just pull it up. Yeah, no, but to my, I mean, someone in the comments let me know if I'm wrong. But Elon said
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping that we'll have it up by September 30th, which
Mm-hmm.
he could just be setting expectations a little bit properly.
Mm-hmm.
Here, actually, I got it pulled up. Let me pull it up. Can you see my screen there? So
Yep.
Elon says, a Tesla AI Day
Okay, got
pushed
it.
December 30th as we may have an Optimus prototype working by then.
Okay.
So, take that with what you want. And then this is what Dave Lee replied with, and Elon said it's not going to look like this at all. So,
I think if he's going to say that, it's definitely going to be there, because if it's not there, it's going to be a massive disappointment. So
Right.
I take that as it's definitely going to be there.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm just trying to set
Yeah,
expectations.
for sure, for sure. Yeah, you're
You
doing
know,
the good thing. You're doing a good thing.
so we'll see.
You're doing the right thing. Yeah.
But it is exciting because all of a sudden, like I mean, how do you feasibly put any sort of economic business model in terms of revenue on this bot yet? Of course, you can throw like very crude metrics on this, try to do it. But maybe after AI Day 2, even skeptics will have a little bit more to play with around business model or prototype and what that could look like economically. Because right now
Yes.
it's just a shot in the dark if you're really trying to model this out, no?
Yes.
So
100%. Yeah.
awesome. By the way, thanks for the super chat extra trends. I forgot to mention that. Sanju's asking, by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'll mark them for later if you want as well. But Sanju asking updates on the share split announcement, rumors for next week. Any thoughts around that? Farzad, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, it should be coming soon, right? I don't know if it's going to happen next week. It's definitely going to happen this year, but yeah, I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. I think it'd be exciting. It may happen. When is the yearly shareholder meeting? Is that in August?
August 4th, yeah.
I'm guessing it will probably happen around that time if I were a betting man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all the thoughts I have.
Are you going to go to the shareholder meeting, by the way?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try. I'm definitely.
It's going to be in
go.
Austin, right? Or Fremont this year?
Yeah, I think it's wherever headquarters is. You know,
Okay.
they move headquarters to Austin. I can't remember if Elon confirmed it's Austin or not, but I'd be surprised if it's not Austin, because that is now the headquarters. Can I read you a quick text that I got from my dad?
Yes.
He just got his new Model 3. He got a used new to him Model 3 with full self-driving beta on it. Or he enrolled for full self-driving, but he has Navigator and Autopilot. He does have a full self-driving package. And then he texted me while we were talking. He's like, if you see this, call me. And I'm like, hey, I'm in an interview. Can I call you back later? Is everything okay? And then he's like, yeah, I'm trying to self-navigate the car. If you're busy, don't worry. We'll do it later. So he's trying to figure out how to use Navigator and all. I just wanted to share that, because
that's awesome. And he just got this Tesla, right?
Yeah, he got it a week and a half ago. And this man is the biggest Jetta diesel fan on planet Earth. Like, he had a Volkswagen Jetta TDI, which is the diesel one with 200 and some odd thousand miles. He commutes 170 miles a day, so like
wow.
He drives a lot, and his diesel bill was getting to $700 a month. Right. He was paying $700 a month in just diesel, which is mind blowing. It's like, why am I doing this? Why not just buy a freaking Tesla? I'm like, great idea. You should do that. And now he just loves He's like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Love it.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell you, bro.
Is it just the standard range plus he bought, the Model 3?
He bought the rear wheel long range. So it's kind of like a little bit of a unicorn, I think, because I don't know if Tesla sells a long range with rear wheel anymore. I think they do everything all wheels.
Did he get that out of inventory then, or
used? Yeah, 2018. It has 50,000 miles on it.
Oh, okay, 2018. And was it a little bit of a discount based on if you bought all wheel performance or long range? I mean,
it would have been more expensive if it was all wheel drive. Yeah, like maybe like $3,000 cheaper if it not since he did real wheel. And they're looking to move to Texas whenever they retire. So you know, and he's experienced in driving in snow, and he's probably going to put snow tires on it during the winter. So he's kind of thinking long term with that purchase. But
he's in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, different climate up there, right? compared to what you need up. Well, it's almost like he should have got the all wheel, but I guess whatever.
He should have, and I tried telling him, like, just get the all wheel drive. He's like, no, but why? I don't need it. I know how to drive in the snow. I'm like, but it's gonna be so much easier. He's like, I don't need it. I'm gonna save the $3,000. I'm like, okay. Listen, I mean, whatever.
I mean, but to be fair, the good thing is a lot of electric cars have a very low center of gravity. So in the snow, I found as well, driving electric, especially Tesla's heavier, right? But in terms, or it's lower center of gravity. Definitely use snow tires, but I got away last winter without using them. I don't recommend it. I don't condone that, but you know, I got away with it. It was my first winter. I did. It snows like usually 2 or 3 times a year here at most. But last winter, it was probably like a month straight of just snow here. So, but this summer, I've committed to this summer. I'm going to buy winter tires. It's the best time to buy it, right? So,
yeah, for
I'll
sure.
do that.
Yeah, I know. Like I had a what did I have? I had a Mazda 6 front wheel drive, and it's different than rear wheel drive. But I had snow tires on that during the winter, and it was a completely different car. It had
Mm.
so much traction, it was unbelievable. And with
Mm.
an electric vehicle, you also have the benefit of your traction control system being digital instead of analog. So you get thousands of adjustments per second. So your
Mm.
traction is always going to be there, even with a rear wheel drive car. So if you
Mm.
slap winter tires on a rear wheel drive car, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
I've even noticed driving in the snow with the Tesla, there'll be times where I'll feel like the wheels are like it's almost like smart steering in the sense where like when I'm throwing on the accelerator and it's one of the wheels is stuck, the other one's like adapting,
Hmm.
or like the other one's like going faster or slower, trying to get me out of that. I'm not sure if that was just me just placeboing into that effect, but I just
Oh.
felt like it was whenever I got stuck, there was some adjusting happening with the
Yeah.
software.
Torque vectoring, that's pretty common in all cars. I mean, it will, especially the newer ones, is like an active driver management's like help thing where it will automatically try to like get you to correctly like veer your car towards the direction you're trying to go, even in like inclement weather. So I don't
Gotcha.
think it's unique to Teslas, but it's
Got it.
helpful.
Well, I mean, you're talking to someone that was driving a 2001 Toyota Corolla before that, so
Hell yeah.
I'm
The
not
most
used to.
reliable car ever.
It's still kicking around. It's still in the
Yeah,
family.
dude.
So
That thing will never die.
704.50 sitting on Tesla at the moment. We're gonna play our Tesla closing price guessing game maybe in a couple of minutes here. But what are your general thoughts around Tesla stock price, the macro environment right now? I don't think we've talked since the macro has kind of taken a huge dump in
Yeah.
kind of the new year.
Yeah, man, it's it's tough. It's tough to watch, the stock market continuing to slide. I mean, I think what's going to be interesting to see in July is if we get confirmation that a recession is actually here. I
Mhm.
think the fact that markets hate uncertainty is definitely playing into this. Plus, obviously, the Russia-Ukraine thing, inflation, the whole oil thing now with I know Biden's trying to get OPEC to get more oil out the ground and into wherever they need it to go. So I think until we reach a point where we're a little bit more certain about the future getting better instead of getting worse, that's when we'll see markets turn around. And it could take, I don't know, we might have to wait for the Fed to pause their sort of hikes to get there potentially, because that might be a signal that tells the market that they're trying to somehow stimulate more spending, you know,
Hmm.
which I think gives a sign to the market that says, hey, we're trying to go to the next phase of our economy. Like let's hold here and go. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not an expert at this stuff at all, but I do think there is until people in general feel like we have better days ahead of us, we're going to continue this slide downwards. So it's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
I mean, originally I thought kind of quarter two was just kind of a write-off. And it certainly seems that way. Although I think Tesla, I'm not sure if when Elon said, oh, Tesla's going to produce the same amount of cars in quarter two over than quarter one. I'm not sure how that's possibly going to happen, but that would
Dude,
be,
if they do that, oh my God.
yeah,
If
I
they
don't
do
know.
that, it's going to be
Yeah.
mind blowing. Yeah.
I mean, that would have to be very heavy backloaded. And so that would mean this month would have to be like a huge record month for that to even. I'm not sure what the exact numbers would have to be, but
They've
um,
done it before though. I mean they have waived deliveries before. Q4 and Q1 were really the first times where Tesla was not in a wave mode, meaning like
hmm,
everything gets dumped at the end of the quarter and everything's super heavy in Q4. It was like status quo, let's go, let's see how many we can deliver. Then Q4 they broke a record, Q1 they came in a little bit above that. So Q2 they might have to resurrect that know-how of let's just freaking stuff every car that we can through the channel. But the one benefit they have in Q2 is that their channel has doubled, right? They have theoretically doubled the pipe to push cars through. With Berlin and Austin going live, just because they're not cranking a lot of cars doesn't mean that the piping has been laid out for the supply chain to be able to facilitate more cars. So
mhm.
theoretically, they could take advantage of that and use whatever they have there to push more cars out the door. So I have no idea.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
but there is a chance that they might get to that 300,000. If they reach 300,000, I would I would crown them as like their best quarter ever, because that is
Yeah.
like that would be a Herculean like
Yes.
type of effort.
Yeah, which is why I don't necessarily see it happening, but
I know.
or expectations there. But you're right. I mean, that would be amidst everything that's going on, right?
Right.
Um, by the way, thanks Tesla Hype for the super chat. Appreciate that for good juju's.
Tesla hype's
So
awesome.
indeed, and he actually won, or he or she actually won a couple weeks ago, the closing price guessing game, which we'll play now. So Tesla closing price guessing game, Price is Right rules. Throw your guess in the chat. Remember, it have to be at or under to win the virtual juju price that is sent telepathically through me to you. And guests always go first. So Farzad, take your time if you need to, but throw your super duper scientific guess in the Ethernet.
I'm going to say, uh, dang, let me see. I'm gonna say 705.99.
Okay, 705.99. Volume weighted average price for the day is 715. By the way, 13 minutes. I, I'm gonna say 710. I'm gonna say 710.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
it's funny because a $6
oh
move
my
now.
God!
It's like the most bullish
Such
thing
a
ever.
big number.
Yes, indeed. I see all the guesses coming here. Perfect. So, I mean, we'll see. It's funny because it's like, okay, just when you're getting used to, like yesterday, I tweeted this out, Age Like Milk. I was like, oh yeah, well, Tesla obviously wants to break $800. Maybe we'll get it live on stream tomorrow. And now we're
Mhm.
sitting here and it wants to break $700 to go down. It's just, you never know what's going to happen in this market. Number one, but as well with Tesla, it's just it's like a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. With recession, we had a question here from Sanju, and I'll get to more of your questions in a second here. Let me pull this up.
Can I just say how awesome the Juju Gang is? Your chat is always freaking awesome, dude. Can I just
I
say
love
you've
it.
done such a good job with your community. Seriously,
Let's.
props.
I mean, props goes out to everyone watching. So shout out to you guys. But you're right. Love the Juju Gang. Sanju asks, with a possible recession looming, do you think that many orders could be canceled? Very fair question from Sanju.
I don't think so. I think the Tesla the Tesla client base is likely to be more affluent and is likely to have more an ability to earn during times like these, or at the very least have financial stability, enough financial stability to be able to survive the recession and move and make that purchase. Because one thing we have to think about, the reason why somebody will be buying an EV is that this is not just like a it's not like me going out and buying another gas car where I'm looking to replace my old gas car. Is I'm buying this electric vehicle because this is going to be the next generation of vehicle. So I think that the purchase is a lot more sticky because you have way more things to justify it with, right? It's a very justifiable purpose. So within that context, I don't see them uh, there being very many. I mean, of course, there's going to be a few,
Mhm.
but if you're thinking about them having a year backlog, whatever the cancellation rate is, I don't think is going to make an impact into their future prospects. So I'm not worried about it. I don't really think about that. It's a good question, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's impactful.
Semantics aside, like I would say, would it have an effect on orders being canceled? I do think, I mean, no matter what, whenever you're going to potentially see a recession and people's jobs getting cut off, you'll probably see some cancellations of orders. But as you said, I think the backlog is so big as it stands right now, like humongous. And then on top of that, you got to remember a lot of people that have locked in their order are going to feel opportunity costs to close because now prices have gone up. So when they
Yes.
ordered, it might have been $5,000 less than what the going rate is today. So you might be tempted to just keep and complete on your order and maybe try it and maybe then resell it in the open market. Who knows? But it's going to be hard it's kind of like taking a puppy home. I think it's, you're going to take it home and then you're like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to sell this thing. So
Yeah.
I think there's that as well. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I do watch when we talk about Tesla's potential downside risks, Farzad, and potentially what that could be. And, I think it's fair to even talk about the downside risks for a second. I think as soon as you start seeing the waiting time going down to what it was, but before all the supply chain shocks, like let's say the same month, like we ordered our car in December, got it in December, 3 weeks later or something like that, and then you see prices having to come back down, then we can, I guess, raise some of the questions about demand. But I don't see that even if Tesla price went down a little bit right now to reflect commodity costs or something, I don't think that would be a downside risk. But I'd love to get your takes on what are you watching for when it comes to actual downside risks for Tesla.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I agree with you. I think even if Tesla were to lower the cost, I don't think that's a sign because supply chain catching up and materials coming down. So that's one factor. Efficiency in the buildings, as Austin and Berlin go live, your cost to build a car is going to come down because those are going to be the next generation of building a car, which is going to be done cheaper with less human labor, more automation. So that's another factor. If anything, if we see price coming down, that's a signal that things are working. Because ultimately, if Tesla's goal is to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport, they have to get down to that 20, 25, $30,000 level at some point, right? So getting the cost down is going to enable them to do that. As far as man, I think it's really hard for me to come up with something because there's just so many positive catalysts in front of the company, and so much of the fear has been baked into the stock price, in my opinion, that I don't even think about any potential downside risks. Really, where my head goes towards is if somehow there is a very strong effort by the powers that be, whoever that is, whatever context you want to put that in, that is going out to truly try to hurt the company in some way that is unprecedented. I view that as a risk. I think Elon's health is a risk, right? So making sure that he's in the best shape possible and taking care of himself is a risk. I mean, China and the U.S. relationship souring as the Russia-Ukraine stuff goes longer, and Taiwan potentially becomes a target for China, could put Tesla in a weird position. But I think the recent talks with Indonesia, I think one of the byproducts of that is to try and diversify their Asia Pacific home base of production. So they're already thinking ahead. So yeah, man, outside of a concerted effort to try and destroy the company from outside forces and or Elon's health, I don't really think there's any other risks, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah. One thing I would throw out is, and by the way, I totally agree with your first point about Tesla having to get down to that, call it $35,000 with inflation, of course, kind of sticker price to hit that like Corolla type scale. Of course, maintenance back. I mean, it seems like so long ago, but like the Model 3, you could, and I often did with a lot of my friends, make that argument of like, look, when you put in maintenance, depreciation costs, all this sort of stuff. But then what happened with COVID and every used car price going up, and gas, of course, it's a little bit harder for a lot of people to go out and buy that $65,000 in Canada here, $1,000 standard range plus. So you're totally right. They need to fill out that bottom section. This is where I want to get your kind of opinion on. So let's say commodity prices come down. Does Tesla, knowing that they have this huge backlog of people, now decrease? Like, is the cost of the Model 3? Is it kind of like a ratcheting up of price that can't? It's like locked back down, because if the demand is continually going to be so high and there's going to be a huge backlog of people wanting to get this car, how can Tesla possibly lower their prices during that? And especially when you consider that if someone ordered it today and they lowered it tomorrow, that person's going to be upset now, right? So is it almost an effect of like a bureaucratic effect of, when you increase budgets for government officials, that budget is never coming back down because they will spend every single dollar, even if they have a surplus at the end of the year, just so they can make sure that they continually have the same amount of budget. Are we seeing that with the Model 3 prices? And are we going to see it's going to be very hard for them to bring those back down even after commodity prices come down?
I think it just comes down to it being purely a supply and demand question. Tesla has the luxury of having the most clean, most non-compromised supply demand problem in the history of automotive, I think, where literally the reason why the prices are so high, yes, one of them is definitely supply, but two is that they have a year backlog, and lowering the price does nothing. It does nothing. So why lower the price, right? So to me, I think the prices will come down as they find the need to increase supply to try and fill the gaps, or they see an opportunity to pass on the savings to the customer if they feel like they can actually get the cars out the door in a timely manner. Okay, so yeah, to me, it's just purely a supply and demand formula for them, and they will lower prices. However, there is still a huge gap in the call it, I'm going to use US dollars, the $45,000 or some odd, whatever the Model 3 is at in the US right now, the lowest trim. Below that, there's a huge gap, and there's no other car maker outside of GM who just announced that they're coming out with a $27,000 Bolt. God knows what the hell that thing's going to be. I wouldn't really be too excited about that, but there's not a huge gap in that market segment. And with the advent of the $25,000 car that Tesla's building plus robotaxi, I think Tesla is by far the best position to take advantage of that lower market because they actually have the supply chain built out and they have the factories to actually serve that market. So I think the lower market is going to be served with a new car and or robotaxi, and then they'll try their best to balance supply and demand for the rest of the lineup.
Right. Okay. So it seems like the Model 3, what you're saying is demand is always going to be high there. You can't really lower that enough for it to hit that lower range of price. That's going to be a
I
new
don't think
vehicle
so.
or robotaxi.
Yeah,
Right.
you're gonna have to. Yeah, there's no way that the platform, even if like Model Y might cost 30,000 to make potentially, you're still gonna have to sell it for at least 32,000 or 34,000 to make something on the car, right? You still have a wide open segment below that. So, yeah.
Because originally that was kind of my thinking was, okay, well, back before all these price increases with inflation, my thinking was, okay, the Model 3 is priced pretty reasonably. Over time, the margin's going to go up from 4680s, gear castings, all this stuff. Well, that'll over time come down. And, even absent of the $25,000 model, Tesla's Model 3, let's say US dollars can get, let's say sub 40,000, sub, maybe 35,000. And that's a really good price range. That it's like I almost consider that bottom barrel or like a brand new, if you want to call it luxury, premium sedan. Premium sedan might be a better description, right? And so, and especially some, a Tesla that has this type of range that no other EV does, let's say. But now with all of this, now I'm kind of in like a no man's land, personally speaking. I'm trying to reconcile, like, okay, it has to be a new model. And if it's a new model, that might take years. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe hopefully, maybe I'm proven wrong with the Shanghai 2.0 over there, right? And maybe it comes out sooner than I expected. So now it's like this chasm. But then the part of me is also like, well, look, like the Model 3 has like this huge demand, a huge amount of people waiting for it. And of course, margin. So worst case scenario, demand wanes. You just lower, you like literally, I have friends that are like, man, I wish I bought the Model 3, can't afford it now. But if it comes back down to where it was and it all of a sudden qualifies for a BC government rebate or the Canadian rebate, I'm buying it, right? And so margin, like they have that inbuilt floor of people ready to buy. So I'm kind of trying to reconcile both those, and it seems like the new model is really, or robotaxis.
Yeah, so I think the one thing to also keep in mind is that the new model, for it to be that cheap, it has to be incredibly cheap to build, which means that it's going to be incredibly easy to build. So the ramp for that car is going to be, I think, way quicker than most people realize. Like getting to 1 million units, it's going to be a fraction of the time than a Model 3 or a Model Y, because for it to be that cheap, it has to be stupid simple to be built. Okay, so let's make sure we keep that in mind as well, because that's a key variable. That's a key variable to that formula. I do not see Model Y or 3 getting below 40,000, to be completely honest, ever at any point, US dollars, ever.
Right. Okay.
I think anything below that is going to be new model and robotaxi, and then if people want to pay more and get a Model Y or a 3, perfect, let them. But if you can't afford that, especially in markets like Europe that are smaller cars, Africa, China, like you got to think globally about this too, right? South America, that new model is going to be gangbusters for those markets.
Absolutely. And I mean, to be fair, Elon said the new model that comes out is going to be a robotaxi model or a robotaxi car designed for when FSD happens. No steering wheel. He doesn't want to do a bunch of things in the car. Right. Yeah. But so that would be the next cheaper model, no?
I think there's two. I think there's a $25,000 car that's not designed to be a robotaxi, and there's a robotaxi. I think those are two different cars. There's two different cars. Yeah, I talked to Dave Lee about this a while ago, and he's the one that kind of planted the idea in my brain, but it makes total sense, because in the markets where you can't do robotaxi right away, like say Europe, that's like super dragging their feet on autonomy, and there's going to be a wide open market for a $25,000 car. You build that thing in China, export it to freaking Europe, and now you've dominated that market. And once they're comfortable, turn on robotaxi and start selling the robotaxi model.
Interesting. Yeah. There's so much to look forward to, and so much to debate, and so much to talk about. By the way, we had a lot of people. Actually, you were pretty close, Farzad, but you were a little bit over for your Tesla closing price guess.
Damn it.
We had Sergel
Ah.
guess 703.49. Remember, we closed at 703.55. And actually, I think that might be our winner of the day. So, Sergel, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Congrats to you, my friend.
Bergeron.
There we go. So,
Virtual
congrats.
Juju.
Virtual Juju coming your way, my friend. 703.55. Not the best close to the week. If we pull that up on Webull, I will take a look at the weekly close here. So the weekly candle is officially finished red, impressively so. We closed below the 100-week moving average at 703.55, which we did a couple of weeks ago anyways, and we reclaimed it pretty fast the week following. So let's see what next week brings. It feels like nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden everything is happening all at once. So maybe, hopefully we have some better times ahead.
Yeah. It is, I think days like today is, another reminder that if people are afraid about the movement in the stock, it might be a good chance to sort of sit back and rethink, why am I invested in the first place? And if there's a misalignment, then that might be a time for you to sort of make a decision one way or another. But days like today, it's a constant reminder, like, am I invested for the right reasons? Yes. Okay, cool. Then I can just forget it. Right. So, but it also differs from person to person. Not investment advice. Don't listen to me.
No, absolutely. Like everyone has to have their own conviction, and like that's the thing is like everyone has their own stocks or companies that they believe in, and there's it's hard to find a company that's more volatile, especially a mega cap, than Tesla. But to me, that almost screams relevance, and like no one for the most part, let's say, is talking about Microsoft like this day to day.
Right.
No one's talking about the mission of Microsoft, so I think relevance is kind of key here. So. Apparently, by the way, I got it wrong. Apparently, lit Wawan gust 703.50. So I apologize. I can't find that comment, but maybe we'll give it a both there. So
Two winners today.
Two winners, an investor, writer, and ace editor. Also, you were off by one penny, but remember, Price is Right rules. Price is Right rules gets the best of us. So.
Dang,
it is
bro,
what
you got some hardline rules here.
You got to keep it in check. You got to keep it in check.
I love it. The integrity has to be kept. The integrity of the game.
Exactly.
Of the juju.
And thank you, Extra Trends, again for the super chat, my friend. Appreciate that. Well, what a week. What an ending to the week. Appreciate you coming on such short notice. I literally shot you a message an hour before, and I was like, hey, it'd be cool to have you on. And you were like, yeah, let's do it. So thanks for coming on, my friend. And hope everything's well. Do you have any parting words for the Juju gang?
Thank you for having me on again, dude. Yeah, I'm always down to coming back on your channel anytime, and appreciate the Juju gang. Everybody have a great weekend. Love you guys, and hopefully we see some green next week. Thank you.
Absolutely. For sure. Friendly reminder on Friday power hours. I like to say, put away your technology, your phones. Your portfolios aren't going to change over the weekend. Spend some time in nature, friends, family, whatever you have to do to re-energize, recoup, and be well mentally. And that's, family and friends and our mental stability is sometimes all we got, especially in this kind of a rocky environment. So much love, everyone. Take care. And Farzad and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.